and welcome to Iron Dinos. I'm Shaun, and last episode we finished talking about the story of Metroid Fusion, so I guess this time we'd better talk about my actual thoughts towards the game, and they are supremely positive. It's impossible to say what my favourite Metroid game is among the 2Ds, amongst all of them, but yeah, it's literally like there are about 6 games in the franchise. They're each equally my favourite because man, Fusion is awesome. It goes a step beyond. So the first Metroids, the first couple of Metroids are all about you being alone in an alien environment where you don't know what anything is, you don't know where anything is, and you're just walking around and everything looks creepy and stuff like that. And this time they've taken the different approach, the aliens to alien, if you like. They've put it in a human structure, so you understand running around, you understand that this is supposed to be a lab and this is supposed to be this, that and the other. It all looks it all looks far less alien, but the horror is subverted from everything around is just trying to kill you to everything around is not just trying to kill you, but it has already killed whatever you're looking at and taken its form. It's the thing, it's another different branch of sci-fi horror that's equally valid. I will say that Alien is my favourite, probably my favourite sci-fi movie of all time. It's definitely my favourite sci-fi / horror movie of all time. But The Thing isn't far behind. The Thing is freaking fantastic. So ramping up the style of horror from just there are aliens, they're trying to kill you, to adding, what's also very prevalent in sci-fi, the whole what makes you individual, what makes you you, all this sort of stuff, because of just being completely consumed by the ex-parasite, is a cool way to go. Like, the first time you see one of these scientists kind of get up and it looks somewhat zombified and they're kind of spewing green blood as they're being taken over by the, that is the original form, being taken over by the ex-parasite, as opposed to mostly what you see, which is something that has already taken over. The host is gone and it has replaced it. Like, that's all very, very cool stuff. And like I say, the SAX being such a great component in this. Of course, Dark Samus. Dark Samus is also in the later games serves a similar narrative kind of function of the the battle itself and all of that stuff, which I absolutely love. But here, I don't know if this sounds unfair, but in Echoes and in Corruption, Dark Samus felt like the thing to be, whereas in Fusion, the SAX feels like something you can't be. And my favourite parts of the game are especially the first time you see it, because I was vaguely aware of the game. I knew it was going to be in there, but I didn't realise it was going to be just you doing your basic Metroid shit. You are just walking around corridors, exploring, and suddenly the music goes tense and the screen goes darker, and she's walking around above you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. And then later on, when she comes out into the same corridor as you, and all you can do is run. You can run or you can die, and that's really, really fantastic stuff. It really drew me in, and it really It really put my nerves slightly on edge. There's also, of course, the bit where the elevator breaks and you crawl through and you find, which you've already seen, but you're in the chamber with the corpse of Ridley, and it's just like, crap. Yeah, all really, really awesome stuff. I was also going to say, the game, the station layout and everything felt a bit more challenging than I think in a lot of Metroids. I know people think it's an easier game, and that's fair enough. But even with the maps and the atoms and stuff, you get blocked off an awful lot in Metroid Fusion. And you have to come back much, much later with different abilities. And there were a few areas where I did get stuck here and there because I didn't realise, I didn't know how to progress, and I thought that was quite cool. Again, with the, it all hits different because you're in a man-made structure as opposed to something alien, so it feels a bit stranger that you just can't figure out your way back and all that. That's very, very cool. It's also got a lovely, like most of the Metroids, it's got a wonderful variety of areas and a variety of different looks to the place. But yeah, it's really, really cool. One of the things that really struck me in the game is the bosses. Always in Metroid, the bosses are quite, or certainly the 2D ones, the bosses are quite memorable and quite beloved by fans. And of course, you've got the Ridley fight, as you often do. That's quite similar to the SNES one. But then you've got stuff like the Nightmare. Like, I think I mentioned it last part. Like, just this horrible, like, it's huge, but it's got almost like kind of a babyish face, and it just looks in pain. It's just really a really, really horrible thing. And like I said, I'm sure I would have said, the more you hit it, the more it kind of bleeds, and the more in pain it looks, and it looks like it's crying blood. It's so awful. And that boss fight is really fucking tricky too. That was, I think, the one that gave me the most difficulty in the game, because it kind of flies around in like a figure 8 loop or something or just in a loop around the area, but it's not a definitive loop. It's kind of on an axis, so it moves around a bit and it changes direction and stuff like that, so it can hit you a lot more, and it comes in very, very close as well, so it's really, really tricky. And again, yeah, spent a bit of time on that. The box, there's like a security robot thing, or driller thing, that you fight twice, and it's one of the most weirdly intense fights in the game. This thing just is going fucking mental all over the place, launching all sorts of missiles and jumping at you and stuff. And especially the first time, I got stuck on that blooming thing for ages. I just could not figure out a way to attack it without taking damage, like more damage myself. I don't know if it's a little RNG based or you just have to figure out the pattern, but this thing is going just batshit insane all over you, which I really appreciated. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, there are a couple other bosses as well through there, but like that's the main things that stuck out to me. And then of course you've got the big fight with the SAX towards the end, so you finally get to fight one when Samus is almost as powered up as she's getting. That was really, really fun, and then that has a second phase, which is nowhere near as difficult as it should be, because it just kind of starts jumping. Like, the first phase is significantly harder. And then, yeah, you've got the Omega Metroid at the end, which is kind of as much cutscene as boss as anything, but that was really great because like these guys, I understand it was the Game Boy and they had to do what they could, and they wanted to they wanted to advance the threat of the Metroids, but the evolved Metroids looked really goofy in Metroid 2. So it's really nice that they could be used. The Omega Metroid could be used at the end of Fusion and actually looks like a threat and feels like a threat and is this giant badass thing. I apologise for going in a circle. I obviously got a bit lost in what I was trying to do. Yeah, so there's all of that. It takes place. I probably mentioned before. It takes place between Metroid. It takes place after Super Metroid, so all the Metroids are gone. So they made the bold choice to make a Metroid game, for the most part, without the Metroids. They kind of pop up about halfway through, because you think they're all gone, and they pop about halfway through. Because of course, the government has been making more, which is ridiculous. And yeah, in other ways, it's an absolutely fantastic game. It's incredibly. It feels like the beginning of a new era, which is kind of funny considering you got Zero Mission and then ginormous wait to Dread, which we'll be talking about in a couple of parts' time. You know, it's it really felt like that could have been a launch point or a quote-unquote relaunch point for the series, and Nintendo just, as is their way, they just didn't. They were happy with, happy doing their Prime games, which are wonderful. They gave us they gave us Zero dick move game. They gave us Zero Mission, which is presumably built on the same engine, I guess, and then and they focused on the Prime stuff until a long way in the future. But yeah, so that about wraps up talking about Metroid Fusion. I think in the next couple of episodes we'll go into these black ones are really tricky. They take a lot of hits. It's probably my own fault. I've been running around feeling utterly invincible because as you saw in the last part, I defeated the Chozo test. So we've got the suit back and it's hyper powered, so Samus is now slightly more powerful than ever. So I've by and large not been paying a lot of attention to my health or assuming that anything can remotely damage me, but perhaps that's not the case. But yeah, so next time we'll have a bit of a talk about Metroid Prime Hunters and Samus Returns. Oh yeah, before I go, I should probably mention, should probably stick in the power-ups, because obviously that's a big part of Metroid. All the stuff you've got to find, because Fusion has an absolute metric ton of them. Missile launcher, super missile, ice missile, diffusion missile, charge beam, wave beam, wide beam, ice beam, plasma beam, the mothball bomb, the power bomb, charge beam, high jump, space jump, screw attack, speed booster, various suit, and finally the gravity suit. So yeah, that's the stuff that Adam is kind of at points pointing you towards, and then later in the game is slowly pushing you away from. I really liked having Adam in this, and I really liked getting a bit of Samus's inner monologue, because even in the Prime games you don't get anything of Samus. Like, she exists by and large as a template to put your own character onto. It's the standard. It's what Nintendo does. practically all of their characters are like that. But and you know, they're essentially, you've just got like whatever you want to call it, the fan base or whatever, put their own stamp on what is accepted or received knowledge on what and who Samus is. But yeah, it was quite cool getting to see some of her own words. I liked the idea of her having someone she respected more than... Yeah, I like the idea of her having someone she respected and who was important to her in the past. But I like the fact that that didn't give her... Like, in the game, she's not in any way putting up with his bullshit. She takes Adam as she has to at first, and then is very much on the side of, I will use this for information, but I'm just going to do what the fuck I want, and there ain't no AI's going to be stopping me. I like that very much, because you could very much have, and I haven't played Other M, that's not going to be part of this, and part of the reason is because I just haven't had time, and another part of the reason is I've heard that the writing of Samus is freaking atrocious and will, you know, kind of somewhat damage your thoughts on Samus as a character. So I'm not going to be rushing to do that anytime soon, even though I'm sure there's plenty in there that will be of value. I'll get around to it one day. It's just, you know, a really, really, really low priority at this stage. Yeah, but anyway, sorry, I've rambled on a bit further. That's it for this part. I will see you next part where we're going into the handheld Metroids. Goodbye!